better to be a little cold and not too many people rather than.
That's what I was telling my wife. I'd rather have a hot, sweaty.
Uh-huh. Hello, everyone. Would like to thank Legally Mine for sponsoring our lunch. This is a law firm with over 15 years of experience and 12,000 of customers, mainly from the medical and dental field. Our speaker today, Gary Harker, he's an expert in health and wellness, and what's more important for the wellness of the surgeons than avoiding lawyers and taxes. So, Gary, all yours.
Appreciate that. So, yeah, this is a topic. I mean, we were talking about it a little bit earlier that the things that we're going to talk about today are things that people are saying, man, why didn't I learn this when I was in college? Why didn't I learn this in residency? When's the time to learn this? And so we're going to open up your eyes a little bit to a world that hopefully you don't have to become acquainted with, but I think it's a necessity because it is a prevalence in the United States with lawsuits. If you have associates, friends that are here on campus, we're going to call the hotel campus for today because we're going to learn today. So if you want to invite them back, that'd be awesome. I'm going to give you my personal information. If you ever want to get a hold of me, this is my cell. Just text me. I'm like you. I don't pick up the phone if you call because it could be spam. So just shoot me a text. And then I want to give you access to some slides. So if you want to look at the slides, you can text legal to 26786. This is pertinent information for you guys that will be something you can review at your own pace. And we'll just go ahead and get started here. Got to go forward a bit. Have you seen any billboards like this before? Yeah, a couple of them. So I spent the last couple of days in Disneyland with my family. I wish I was up here playing golf yesterday because the golf course looks amazing out here. Who went golfing, by the way? Anybody go golfing? Was it a good course? Was it good shape? Yeah, I got some. All right. I knew I was going to miss out. Dang it. So I was on the way back, and I keep telling my wife that 1 in 3 billboards in the United States has to do with something with litigation. News in Los Angeles, the percentage is even higher. I'm sure you're all super shocked. Why do they have all these billboards though? What's the point in them? To make money. That's right. Well, how many of these billboards say, call me so you don't get sued? Have you seen that billboard? No, because it doesn't exist. Why? That's the most frustrating thing to me. If I want help with something, I usually go to someone so that it can make me better, right? But these attorneys and stuff are thriving on the fact that this victim mentality, and they're the ones who are going to benefit from that. The victims sometimes benefit from it, but lawsuits are there all day, every day. So we make up 5% of the world's population. Of lawsuits worldwide, what percentage would you guess occur within the United States? Give me a percentage, somebody. 80%. I heard 80 first. Sorry. Okay. 80%. Who's going to take over 80%? You guys have no faith in the American people. Are you serious? Who's going to take lower than 80%? Okay. Who didn't vote? Come on, people. We need some interaction here. I'm going to pull it from you if I have to. Okay. Would it surprise you if I told you that 90% of lawsuits worldwide happen right here in the US? Not at all. Why? Well, we're so happy. We have all the attorneys, all true answers. But if you look at it, the root cause of it is the ways that our laws are written in this country. If I want to sue you outside the United States, I have to pay my own legal fees. And if I lose, I have to pay the prevailing party's attorney's fees. That sounds like a really good idea. So why don't we make our laws like that? Well, because the people who write the laws in this country, what are they called? Or politicians, yeah. Okay, lawyers and politicians kind of go hand in hand. So they're not creating laws that benefit us. They're perpetuating the situation, making it a more litigious society. In the United States, if I want to sue you, how much money do I need out of pocket?
Nothing.
Nothing. And here's the part that bugs me the most. If I want to defend myself from someone who hasn't paid a dime, do I get to work with my attorney on the same agreement where I don't pay them unless they win? Nope, I immediately have to pay out of pocket just to defend myself. Most lawsuits, even if they're settled, go for at least 6 months. That's these almost the bare minimum 6 months lawsuits, unless they drop it, of course. Okay. So in legal fees, it's about $5,000 to $10,000 a month. You're easily into $40,000 just to fight for yourself on a frivolous case. Even if you're an employee of a hospital, if you want to fight for yourself rather than have an insurance company fight for you, which oftentimes is what ends up being the case. We're not fixing it, not because we're not trying. We're not fixing it because our politicians don't allow us to. We're increasing our odds of losing every single year. So I'm going to ask you, what's the centerpiece of your wealth? Is it being a professional? Because you all elected to be the profession that you're in. No one here forced you to be a surgeon. How many of you own your own business? How many of you own rental property? Okay. How many of you do anything outside of the medical practice for income? Okay. Now you do these things so you become an entrepreneur. Even if you don't own a medical practice, you're an entrepreneur. At the end of the day, the one thing that's responsible every single time is your person. And here's what's frustrating to me. When you go to school, they tell you that you're required to have insurance. You have to have malpractice insurance. Of these three, what does that cover? The professional. Only the professional is covered. What about an entrepreneur? Is that insurance also covered there? Nope. So I have to get another level of insurance. So I'm going to have that to cover my being an entrepreneur. What about my person? What are you doing to protect yourself? Well, I just had insurance. Well, it would have surprised you if I told you that more than 50% of lawsuits with medical professionals occur outside of being a medical professional. In regular everyday accidents, as being a business owner. This is where lawsuits are coming from. It's not just the fact that you made a mistake. There's a high probability that no one in here is perfect. So there's a high probability that we will all make mistakes, right? So I'm going to get a little personal with you. I was sued. I was sued by a guy in California, in Los Angeles, a struggling actor. In fact, I was sued twice within 7 months. The first time I was sued, we decided to settle the lawsuit. In settling the lawsuit, our premiums tripled. That was a fun experience, I'll tell you what. Okay? At the end of the day, the insurance company doesn't lose, I do. Because I'm having to pay a higher premium for the same amount of insurance. So the second lawsuit comes up. We decide to fight it because we didn't want our premiums to go to triple again. And 4.5 years later, we won the lawsuit. Now, would you consider that a victory if you got to fight for 4.5 years? No, I can't get the time back. It's number one. Number two, I can't get the money back. I tried to countersue. And when I countersued, I ran into a big problem. The person that I was suing didn't have any assets. So when I tried to countersue them, the attorney said, it's not worth your time because they have no money. So the best way to prevent any lawsuits is to rely on the government for the rest of your life. Okay, anyone want to create their own wealth for the future? Or we're going to rely on Social Security for the rest of our lives, okay? I sure hope I'm in the good room for this, okay? So here's the third part. You see my family, I've got a 15-year-old, a 13-year-old, and a 3-year-old. It wasn't planned to have a 10-year gap when we got married, but life happens, lawsuit happens. We were not the closest couple for about 5 years. For some reason, I thought I was being personally attacked. And so I thought the world was out to get me. So here I am trying to protect myself from my employees, from my clients, right? So the person who got the brunt of my anger, for lack of a better way to say it, it's just that's what it was my wife. And so my wife dealt with a huge amount of stress. We ended up having 2 miscarriages during our lawsuit. So you can't tell me that there's not an emotional effect to a lawsuit. Okay, what's the leading cause of miscarriages? It's right there, it's stress. Okay. Do you think if I would have known how to protect myself and prevent a lawsuit in the first place, I would have done something about it? Maybe I didn't think it was important because I thought, you know what? It's really not going to happen to me. I'm a nice guy. No one's going to really want to sue me. And you know what I found out? Nobody wants to sue you. They want to sue your money. That's all they want. They don't care about you as a person. It's just not the reality. Okay. So there is a leap that says, you know what? I have to have a little bit more, I have to protect myself. So that's why I put a picture of my family. There's another one. I'll talk to you about that a little bit later. So there are strategies that I have learned that you need to put in place. I found a company that could do a lot of this for me, but unfortunately it was after I'd done half the work already. So we're going to talk about some of these strategies. You're going to say, well, I've done some of that. Well, I did too, and it still wasn't bulletproof. And so I had to do some other things to make sure it was wrapped up. Recognize the things that we're going to talk about today, they're backed by the Supreme Court. Recognize this, that every state has different laws. Anyone here from Texas, Tennessee? Okay. How much do you pay in income tax in Texas? Zero. Anybody here from California, New Jersey? How much do you pay in income tax here? More than zero?
A lot more.
A lot more than zero, okay? So laws change every single state that you're in. Does that mean I have to live in that state? No. I can own an entity, or I can own property, or I can even run a business outside of medical, okay? If I'm in a state outside, or in a state outside of where I'm currently in, I can do that. You have to have what's called a registered agent. Anybody heard that term before? A registered agent, not an Asian. They can be an Asian too, but just agent. A registered agent needs to be someone is a legal representative for you in the state in which you own an entity. All right, that's what enables you to do that. So how do lawsuits work? There are two fashions of these. There's cause and there's motivation. What can you do? What can you actually do to control the cause of a lawsuit? I've already got the key up there. You can't control it. They're called accidents for a reason. No one plans them. I'm going to have an accident tomorrow so that I can get sued 3 days later. No one ever plans for those things. The most probable lawsuit that we have is giving keys to a 16-year-old. Okay, that's a really good indicator that there's an accident's going to happen. Just ask your insurance company; they're going to charge you way more than you think they should. Okay, so we have that aspect of it. What about being an employee? Do you have how many employees of hospitals here? Okay, do you have a higher risk or a low risk of being sued as an employee as opposed to being a business owner? What do you think? Higher or lower? Higher. Why? They sue the hospital, and you're named in the lawsuit as well. And then you have to fight to get your name off of the lawsuit. Now, why would they want to attach your name to the lawsuit? They're suing the hospital, so why are they suing you personally as well? Because you have money. That's it. So now the work is, how do I remove you from that lawsuit? So regardless of the amount of money that you have, you don't look like a target. Like, sure, go ahead. So I'm going to show you how to do that. It's called motivations, controlling the motivation. The worst way to own your own assets is in your own name. If you don't have any entities, if you own a house and it's not in a land trust or an LLC, it's owned in your own name. So when you're sued, guess what they're suing you for as well? The value of your home, unless you're in a home that has a Homestead Act, which there are less than 10 out of 50. California is not one of them. Texas is, Florida is, Tennessee is one, okay? The worst way to protect your own assets is in your own name. What if I could tell you that you can protect 98% of your assets that are called safe assets, meaning they cannot be the cause or source of a lawsuit? All you have to do is put them inside of one specific entity. Would that make a lot of sense? This is art, gold, jewelry, savings accounts, investment portfolios, stocks, bonds. All of that is monetarily based. It cannot cause a lawsuit. It can be consumed within one, but it can't cause one. So what does that do? It inflates the value of a lawsuit. It goes through the roof. So what do? We put them inside of a limited partnership. Oftentimes it's a family limited partnership. Now, a limited partnership works like this. There are two different types of partners. There are general and there are limited partners. A general partner has all of the control, just like any family, if you would. In a family, who has all the control of the finances of what the family does? Men, don't say it. Who has all the control, generally speaking? The wife. See, that's why I said men don't speak, okay? But you're right, okay? It's generally between husband and wife. instead of isolating one. So what ends up happening is you create a separation. You have a management company here on the far right-hand side. This management company is owned 50-50 by husband and wife. If you're single, this works as well, but you then have this own 2% as the general partner of an FLP. They have all the control, the same way that it is right now. Who benefits from your finances? Husband and wife do, right? What about kids? All right, what about elderly parents? Anyone who could benefit from your finances on a regular basis, you put them as limited partners. Guess what? They have no control and no say whatever you do with that money. Is that a good idea? Well, it is a good idea because if you look at it, they can't make any decisions just like you didn't when you were a kid. You didn't get any say in what your parents did, right? Didn't matter how old you got. You probably still didn't get a say until your parents become like 85 like my parents, and then I have more of a say now. But until then, I didn't. This is how you protect yourself. So now if you have $100,000 in a bank account and someone wants to sue you for that money, say that's great. You're going to be totally hit with that 100%, $100,000. If you put that into an FLP, they can now only take $2,000. And the attorney is going to take 30% of that. He's going to walk home with $600. How long will an attorney work for if they're only going to be getting $600 from a lawsuit? Some of you are saying, well, I have $1 million. Okay, well, let's times that by a little bit more. Now we've got $6,000 the attorney's going to take. That's about a week's worth of time for the attorney. That's how long they're going to fight to try to sue you personally. And what did you do? All you did was put your assets in the right type of entity. That's all you've done here. Okay? It's not a difficult process. Here's the reality. 1974, the Supreme Court found unanimously 9-0 in favor of the family limited partnership. You cannot sue limited partners in an FLP. Can't do it. How many of you have an FLP in here? We got one. Are you a client of mine? No. So why did you get an FLP? Who told you to get one though? Your CPA told you to. So I've just talked about the legal side of it, but from a financial side of it, it has a huge effect as well. Absolutely. Every entity that you're going to create should protect you from a litigation standpoint, but also benefit you from a tax perspective. Who here wants to save money on taxes? Who wants to do it legally? Raise your hand. Okay. I'm going to show you legal ways to do it today. All right. A lot different. We'll talk about it here in a second. So those are the types of assets. Other types of assets that you own: office equipment, land, et cetera, et cetera. These are entities, or these are assets, excuse me, that can potentially cause a lawsuit. We all have these. We use these. Okay. They should put kids in here, but that's kind of an obvious question. Okay. I remember going to my friend's house and he had a trampoline. His dad was a pretty successful guy. And before I could jump on the trampoline, I had to sign a waiver. You guys, I'm sure you're like, yeah, totally get that. In order to swim at his dad's, so it was two brothers and their dad. They all own the same company. And in order to play on the sport court, you had to do one waiver. In order to swim, you had to do another waiver. In order to do the aeroball trampoline, you had to sign another waiver because they're owned by 3 separate entities. Okay. They got the idea of asset protection a long time ago. LLCs, what do they protect? A lot of things, the things that we actually use. Now, an LLC has 4 different types of entities. You can tax it as a C Corp, S Corp, sole proprietor, partnership. You can modify them anytime you want to. There is no penalty. It doesn't change your EIN number, makes a lot of things processing super, super easy. Now, in the name, it has a word that's limited. There's a limited liability coverage, limited liability company. Where's the limitation start? Where does it stop? Right here. You create an LLC, there's a corporate veil around it. That veil protects the assets inside of it from you personally. That's why you created a separation. Yet, when a company is sued, who is named in the lawsuit? You are. The business owners, the members, the employees. Okay? The employees can, usually they're not, unless it's a hospital. But if I send my secretary out to go get some sandwiches and she gets in an accident on her way there back, they can now sue not just her that caused the lawsuit and the car, but because she wasn't a business expense and the car is also owned by the company, they can now sue me for the value of all of the assets inside of that one company. So I lose everything. It's all exposed. So the easiest way to do this is create multiple entities, creating a separation. Therefore, if one entity, there's a lawsuit inside of one, you're only exposing that one entity. This is how the laws are supposed to work. If you have more than one entity, more than one LLC, you're good. You're doing a good job. You're halfway there. Okay. There's a lot more you got to do, but we're going to talk about those things. Okay. Why? Because law has been built to get around and through asset protection. Piercing the corporate veil, dissolving an entity. These are big. To pierce a corporate veil, they said that level of protection that you have, if you have less than 98 members in your company, they can pierce the corporate veil. So what the hell do we have a veil for? Why do we create the LLC? Well, the idea was good. You just have to go one step further. You have to create what's called a holding company. And yes, you can do this even in a state like California where they like to sue. Okay, you can still do that. How does it work? Well, I can have LLCs, and regardless of what state those are in, I can have LLCs across the board. Think of it of all these as just real estate properties for just a second. I now have 4 real estate properties. If one of them causes a lawsuit, the attorney is going to try to sue you laterally for the value of all of the LLCs across the board. If you don't have a holding company, they can do that. However, if you have a holding company that manages these other LLCs, they now have to request from the state where the holding company is held, and they have to request that they release the other 3 LLCs to be prosecuted in that state. So if you put it in the right state, it locks these up. So the idea, the perception that you had that they were protected is now actually in effect. We just have to do this redundancy in the United States that makes it protected. Who does this? Disney, Walmart, Wells Fargo. I was just at Disneyland. Every single ride is its own LLC. So if I get injured on Thunder Mountain Railroad, I get to sue Thunder Mountain Railroad. I don't get to sue Disneyland because that's not where the accident occurred. The accident occurred at Thunder Mountain Railroad. How much money did I pay Thunder Mountain Railroad? $0. So when an attorney files a case, I'm going to win 100% of that money. Last I checked, $100,000 or 0 times 100% is still 0. And my attorney will take his cut of that as well, which is still 0. So how does a company like Disney still stay in business when you know there's whiplash accidents every single day? Let's take it more egregious. Ski resorts. I'm from Utah. Anybody been skiing before? Anyone not seen a stretcher at a ski resort? How many of you operated on someone that was at a ski resort? Okay, that happens. Is that not a lawsuit waiting to happen? How does that company stay in business? Well, they signed a waiver. Don't you guys sign waivers? No, it's how they structure it. Over here to the side, right here, where you don't see, that's the actual business called Park City Ski Resort. All right, and then you go down Widowmaker LLC and you get hurt. You're going to sue Widowmaker LLC. How much money did you pay Widowmaker LLC? $0. You now again, 100% of 0, still 0. So if they're doing it, why aren't we doing it? Well, I'm a physical property. I'm more like a bank. Okay, well, the bank does it too. There's Wells Fargo's headquartered in California, San Francisco. Its operational headquarters in New York. It's chartered in Delaware and its main office in South Dakota. So why would a bank want to be owned in 4 separate states? We talked about this a second ago. State laws are different regardless. Every state has different laws. There are federal laws, yes, and there are state laws. Every state has different laws. They're benefiting from a legal and a tax perspective by putting them in the right state. So what's the right state for a holding company? Well, I gave you one of them, cheat code. Delaware is a really good one. The reason why it's a good one is because most banks are there, and New York is really close to Delaware, so they go there. Other ones, Wyoming, North and South Dakota, Alaska. Why are they good? Because nobody lives there. So how are they going to make money if nobody lives there? Off of this stuff. Structuring your stuff. Okay. So here's the remedies for a lawsuit in 49 states. So I'm going to put my attorney hat on for a second. And this is how I'm going to acquire your assets. The first one is I'm going to dissolve your LLCs. And then I'm just going to take the assets that are underneath them. I can do that unless I have a holding company. Okay. We're going to talk about that a little bit too. I can seize your assets. Now, oftentimes seizing the assets is usually strictly financially. However, if you are a criminal, they will come and take your physical property. I've seen it happen twice. Okay. All right. Foreclosure of membership. They can order you to foreclose on your house to satisfy a judgment. They can order a foreclosure of membership of your ownership in a company. Why? Because they want to facilitate a lawsuit. I was talking to oh my goodness, I just forgot her, Robin, forgot her last name. She operated on, you guys are small circles in the surgical field. She is Robin West. She did the surgery for Alex Smith on his lower leg with the infection. I don't know if anybody else followed that. I talked to her and her husband for about an hour and a half 2 weeks ago. And what was interesting is their friend was also sued not more than a month and a half ago and lost a $49 million case to an athlete. Said they lost wages because the surgery didn't go well. All right. So I don't know why I'm bringing that up right now. Someone had to hear that because I usually don't talk about other people's stuff. I asked if I could on that one, by the way. Otherwise I can't. Foreclosure membership. They could easily, oh, this is why I said that, because they foreclosed his ownership of multiple assets, multiple properties in order to satisfy the judgment against him. So they forced liquidation of assets. The fourth one is a charging order. The charging order acts like an IOU. And I learned back in the 90s that IOUs were just as good as money, right? I appreciate 2 or 3 of you that got the reference on that one. Alaska has a great state. The only remedy to get your assets out of your business or out of your personal bank accounts is by using the charging order, the IOU. They can no longer force you to pay. Or can they? Let's look at the paperwork. The paperwork says this: there's a proportionally rationed distribution clause that is built in by default to every entity in the United States, regardless of what state that is in, regardless of the type of entity that it is. It is the default in over 650 entity forms. What does it say? Well, distribution now has to be equally based upon ownership. It enables the judge to force a distribution of funds. So if the judge is allowed to force distribution of funds, how much control do you really have? None. So what if you could change the verbiage to make it non-proportionally rationed? Well, now the judge is out of the game. How many of you would like to go in front of a judge and know that the judge has no say in what happens in that outcome? This is how it would work. Tom, I'm going to pick on you. Is that okay?
Sure.
Perfect. Tom, Wayne, I'm so glad you guys have legible name tags and that I can read. 2 went together. So Tom's suing Wayne. Boo. You've been a nice guy up here. We're good. So Tom's suing Wayne and I am the judge. Now, Wayne, I fined for Tom for $1 million. I'm going to force you to pay Wayne, or excuse me, Tom, that judgment over the next 3 years. If you can pay it off faster, great, but you're going to owe him that $1 million. How do you feel about that? Not good. Okay, how much control did you have in this situation? None. Well, this is the conversation that you're having if you don't change what you currently have, because it's the default verbiage. So if you're proactive, preventative care, if you're proactive and you change the verbiage to a non-pro rata distribution clause, and now Tom sues you, the conversation goes like this from the judge. Wayne, or Tom, I fined you for $1 million. But Wayne, legally, I have no right or authority to force you to pay Tom. So when would you like to begin to pay the judgment that I've just awarded him? The 5th of never. I thought we were friends. You started the lawsuit. Okay. This is exact. That was a good answer. The 5th of never. I was going to say November. No, never is great. Okay. So if Wayne never pays Tom, Tom's like, nah, I didn't really get any money anyway, right? Guess who else isn't getting paid if Tom doesn't get paid? His attorney. So how long would an attorney work if he recognized that even if he won the lawsuit, he wouldn't get paid? He ain't working very long, right? It's different. With the last case that you guys were discussing up there, right? You have a patient who's been shot. How hard are you going to work to save their life? As hard as you can until you know there's no result. That like you can't finish it, like until you can't, you know, it's the end is not good. until it's, okay, you're going to work as hard as you can. It's not that way if you're an attorney. You're going to look at the case like, that's too hard, never mind. Can you imagine that? And that's what these attorneys are doing. They're saying a case like, nope, not worth my time, see you later. That's what you want to look like, though. That's what you want to look like. You look extremely familiar. I don't know why. We're going to talk later. It's so crazy, okay? My ADD kicking in, squirrel moments. It happens. Here's a verbiage that I truly love for people in the situation that Tom is in. Because did Tom really lose anything? So if Tom doesn't lose anything, what's the probability that he's going to find another attorney? Right? That attorney sucked. I'm going to find somebody else. Great. So we're going to send him a letter. It comes from the IRS. It was built in 1977-137. It says a plaintiff, Tom using the charging order, will have to pay income tax on any monetary judgment, even if Wayne elected not to pay him. I thought we were trying to pay less in taxes here, right? Now, what individual in the right mind is going to pay taxes on $1 million judgment knowing they're going to get it on the 5th of November? Never. You see what happens to this lawsuit? What caused the lawsuit? Anybody remember? Good, because I didn't tell you why. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. When you control the motivation behind the lawsuit, there is no lawsuit. Maximum lawsuit, probably about 2 weeks. Why? You just have to educate the attorney that said, hey, look, even if you win this lawsuit, you're not getting paid. You will still want to go through it? Oh, we'll find a way. Okay. So we send them the information like, I can't do this. This is way too hard. Not only too hard, you can't, and you just don't want to admit that you can't do it. So what now? Let's do some fun stuff. Let's do some estate planning, a trust. Got a question about a trust earlier, right? Okay. If this doesn't answer your question, we'll ask it a little bit later. There are two different types of trusts, revocable and irrevocable. An irrevocable trust cannot be modified. It's locked up. It usually holds specific assets like a vacation home, an heirloom you want to give to your children, whatever that may be. A revocable trust is something that can be modified. If your life is going to change, get a revocable trust. It could be modified. The grantor can be the trustee and the beneficiary. Here's the thing that you need to understand. Delineate two things. An irrevocable trust does protect that asset or the assets inside of it from a lawsuit. It also protects the assets from you. You cannot modify them. You can sell the whole trust if you want to. You just can't modify it. And then after you sell it, then someone can modify it. And they'll pay taxes on that sale. Okay. Over here, a revocable trust. You can modify it. You can change it. It does not protect your assets from a lawsuit. It holds entities like the LLCs and the LPs that we talked about. And those entities protect the assets like your cars and your money and your buildings and things like that, your rental properties. That's how it works. Your will goes inside of a living trust. Now, a will outside of a trust is not worth the paper that it is written on because I can challenge it. Anyone can challenge it. I don't even have to be in the will. I found out somebody passes away, they got a lot of money. I'm just going to put my name in the hat and say, I want some too. That doesn't seem fair. You're right, it doesn't, but it does happen. Usually not with small potatoes, usually bigger potatoes, it does happen. Who is it? Usually family members, okay? Extended family members. If you're an NBA basketball player, it's this guy that coached you when you were 7 years old that wants a piece of it too, right? Everyone wants a piece of whatever they helped you out with. When you create a will and you put it inside of a trust, it avoids probate court. I'm going to ask open question. Anybody here experienced probate court before? Anyone currently experiencing probate court right now? Okay, probate court is when your estate is worth over $100,000 here. In some states, it's $50,000. And someone passes away, like your parents pass away. And now in order to satisfy that judgment within the probate court, the state will appoint attorneys to identify where the money should go. If you have it inside of a trust, it avoids that. So put your assets inside of the stuff, create the trust. It is the most important thing I would say any of you have. The most important asset or entity that you have. Just recognize that it only benefits you when you pass away. It does not benefit you while you're alive. Okay? And it doesn't benefit you, it benefits everybody else you leave behind. Let's talk about some taxes. Before I move on, any questions as it relates to any of the entities we've discussed? No? Okay. Oh, back that thing up. Okay. Tax strategies. Was there anyone in here who said they didn't pay enough in taxes? Okay. So my favorite thing is we have vetted these so much, it's crazy. I want to recognize this. When I talk about tax strategies, there are laws that you have to follow, right? They're called tax laws, and laws have been put into place to help you stay in business, to help you keep your money. What's unfortunate is a lot of people think, well, I don't want to push the threshold. I don't want to either, but you know what? We know where the threshold is. So you go to someone who's experienced, knows where that threshold is, and they go up to it and go right underneath it, because you can always add more, you can't take further away. Right? Just like any anesthesiologist will tell you, you can only go so far. You don't want to go beyond that threshold. We stay way underneath it. We're not Donald Trump pushing the threshold. But you know what? We are going to use the laws that are to our benefit. The only reason we don't go that far is because he has to fight it a lot. Even if I'm not going to go political, but I just did. The point is, I think you guys can save your money on taxes far better, or you can spend your money far better than a politician can. So just keep it. You can donate to whoever you'd like to. Recognize that it's not your CPA's responsibility to ensure you do not overpay your taxes. If you read that slide, you know whose it is. Whose is it? Yours. And it's the last person you blame. You never want to blame yourself. Is that fair? I know I didn't want to blame myself. I had to go to my CPA and say, hey, is there anything else that you can do to help me save money on my taxes? And she said, sure, what do you want me to do? So let me rephrase the question. I was wondering if there's anything that you could do to help me save money on my taxes. Yeah. What do you want me to do? See, CPAs, far and away, by and large, they are bookkeepers. They say, where'd you spend your money? We'll categorize those, and they are tax preparers. This is how you're going to pay those taxes based upon the bookkeeping numbers that we have. If you have entities, you can now leverage the tax laws for you. For example, how many of you own your own business here again? Okay, a few of you. Can they save more money on taxes than a W-2 employee? Yes. Even if they don't make more money. Why? Because they have an entity that allows them to do that. All right, I'm going to open up your eyes a little bit. My friend is he's a pediatrician, and he works for the Army. He says, look, I can't make any more money. I work for the Army. There's no other ways for me to make money. And I called bullshit on him. I said, there absolutely is ways you can make money. He's like, no, there's not. I said, okay, well, let's talk about this. So there's a lot of different ways to make money. I'm not going to go through all of them, but each one of these are taxed differently. I said, you need to start something. He's like, well, I said, what do you like to do? He's like, well, I don't know. Social media, I'm on social media a lot. I'm like, well, that's a waste of time, but whatever. If you want to do social media, that's great. It's like, no, I really like it. I think it's a good platform for education. In fact, sometimes I've even dabbled in thinking maybe I should start a TikTok channel. I said, maybe you should. TikTok Kid Doc was born. 2 years ago, he had 0 followers. He now has 467,000 followers as of about 2 months ago. He gets paid more by TikTok than he does being a doctor. Okay? He wasn't banking on that. I've had other people say, you know what, for my time outside of work, I like to go scuba diving. And so I became a master instructor. And every quarter I go scuba diving. Great. Do you ever go by yourself? No, I usually go with a group. Cool. So how does that work? Well, they all pay me money, and then I go and I book everything, and then we just have a good time. I said, great, you have a business. Just no. I just like to go scuba diving. I said, no. You took money in as a service, and you paid for someone else for another service. Cash in, cash out. That's a business. Well, I only do like $20,000 a year. Yeah, it's called a startup. Okay? There's no size of company that makes it big enough or small enough. The fact of the matter is, you can be a little bit more proactive with your brain saying, you know, I actually am doing some of these things. You can still save money even if you're just a W-2 employee and you don't employ any of this stuff. Why? Because as this gentleman said, you have an FLP, a family limited partnership is a business. What is it doing? It is managing your finances. Do you hire someone to manage your finances or work with those? Yep, they become an employee of that company. You just hired out to them. They're a 1099 person that's working for you. You just pay them through a check, same way you pay them right now. Most of you have a financial advisor or are paying someone in finances for bookkeeping. Guess what? That's all part of the FLP. They're not employed by the FLP. You subcontract it out just the same way that you do right now. Distributions, why? If you paid through a company, any money that comes through that, you can pay yourself a salary or a distribution. Distributions do not pay a FICA tax. If you're in California, it's a big deal. It's about 30% of your income. You're not paying in a FICA tax. That's huge. If you have $100,000 coming through distributions and $100,000 coming through salary, you just saved $30,000 in taxes. You're welcome, just by paying yourself a little bit differently. Income shifting, can I pay my kids? At what age can I start paying my kids? Crickets? No. Nobody? What's that? 9? I love that answer, okay? 9 could be a very real answer. Did anybody see a picture of my family today? Yeah. Guess who got paid today? My kids. Did they help convey a message to you and help me convey that message to you of what the necessity of asset protection is? Absolutely, they did. Can I justify paying them as models? Absolutely, I can. Can I pay my 3-year-old to mow the lawn? No, the only lawnmower she works with has bubbles on it. Okay. What about my 15-year-old? Can I pay him to mow the lawn? Not mine, but a rental properties, I sure can. Okay. And so for all the maintenance that's done on our rental properties, I pay my children and I pay them the exact same rate I would anybody else. You can't do that. I sure can. To mow my lawn, I'm going to pay somebody $100. And for a professional, it's going to take them 20 minutes. And for my son, it's going to take him 3 hours. It's the same rate. Okay. It's the same way to do this. I can pay my children up to $13,850 this year. They nor I will pay income taxes on that. I have 3 kids. That's $40,000 that they nor I will pay income taxes on. Is that a big deal? Yeah. Now we can go to Mexico and see my wife's family. If I didn't do that, we don't go see Mexico. We don't see my wife's family. That's how we choose to save that money. What we choose to do with that money that we save. Okay. We might go to Cancun and have a good time on the way there. However, it's still my choice because I chose to save money on my taxes. Okay. That's all I have to do is pay myself differently. I also call this the Chelsea Clinton rule because Chelsea Clinton was paid when she was going to college as well by a nonprofit organization that her parents owned. I'm not going to tell you how they got their money for the nonprofit organization, but I will tell you that they did pay all of their administrators, their board, $250,000 a year. So why would Bill and Hillary pay her $250,000 a year as a consultant or part of the board? Because then she's responsible to pay taxes on that. Well, she's a student, so $250,000 was there. She paid $200,000 in tuition. About $50,000 is what she paid taxes on. So about $7,000. That's okay. However, if mom and dad paid themselves first, they would have paid $180,000 in taxes and then given her $250,000 that she would have to pay taxes on. So which is better, $180,000 in taxes or $7,000 in taxes? And what did they do different? They found a different way to pay them. Tax strategies, tax laws benefit both sides of the aisle. Right? Using your home as a business place. There's 2 ones here. A home office, dedicated home office, that'll save you a couple $1,000s. But a bigger one, IRC 280A Section G. Augusta rule. Anyone heard of the Augusta rule? Okay. The Augusta rule works like this. I can rent my house out to anyone I want to. Okay. If I do it through Airbnb, they're going to pay me like $300, $500 a night. Or I could rent it out to a business. And for a business expense, it's going to be a lot more than that. Maybe about $2,000. So now I can rent my house out to a business that I own. And all of you now own a business because you own an FLP. So now that business is going to pay your house. And how much? Even if it was only $500 a month, you can do it 14 times a year. It's roughly $20,000 at the end of the day, or $10,000 at the end of the day, that you're not paying taxes on. If you have a business that is making more than $30,000, $40,000, that's making closer to $1 million or $2 million a year, now you're looking at $4,000 to $5,000 per event. That's $50,000 a year in taxes. How you get paid makes a difference. How you elect to pay yourself makes a bigger difference. My question is, why are you not leveraging the laws to benefit you? And I would venture to say that every one of you said, because I just didn't know. And the other person will say, well, I'm very skeptical. I don't know about this. Okay. We have over, like you were saying, over 12,000 clients. You would look at it on a website and say, why is no one complaining about their tax strategies? Well, they don't complain because they work. Okay. In fact, most people are saving well over $20,000 in taxes. QBI professional deduction, you have to own your own business for this one, but you can reduce your taxable burden by 20% by filling out 7 pieces of paper. Professional research and development tax credit. The education that you're taking here, if you paid your own dime to be here, you're doing research and development, you can be credited your taxes against the hours that you're here. Anybody here qualify for that? Who paid themselves to be here? Okay, come talk to me one-on-one. Okay, but I'm just going to tell you here, you can probably save about $10,000 a year on research and development because it refers to the time that you take, that you invest in the training and implementation of new products and processes. Okay, you're spending the time to do that, and the IRS is willing to pay you back for that, for the professional timing. Okay, regular attorneys is going to cost around $30,000. It cost me $25,000, and I didn't get a tax strategy, but I was protected. At least I thought I was. I didn't know you had the right verbiage was different. My attorney is still my friend. I didn't know, he didn't know that you could change the verbiage inside of a document to make it a non-pro rata. He could not serve as a registered agent because he was only in the state that I was in. So I was constrained to the laws within my state. Okay. Making sure that you have the availability to use these strategies is huge. This is where Legally Mine came in. This is the company I'm representing. We've been doing this for 15 years. What do? We create strategies where we don't just give you a booklet and say, hey, go home and do this. It's not a DVD set that sits on your shelf next to your P90X workout videos. Okay. It's something that you can implement. Why? Because we implement it for you. How many of you want to become licensed CPAs and licensed attorneys over the next 3 years to do this? Who thinks it's a necessity? Okay. We've been perfecting, well, we could say that, protecting professionals like yourselves really for the last 40 years. Jay Mittens, the founder of our company, he's the one who fought the Supreme Court in the 60s and in the 70s. He created the LLCs in the 80s. It is now over 157 continents. I think there's only 7. 157 countries. Okay, they're still utilizing the LLC. It's sound. So what we do is we do everything that we talked about. Our regular everyday price is $13,600. The only thing I don't do is file your taxes. I want you to work with your CPA, but instead of just working with your CPA, I'm going to go a step further. I will have my tax attorneys talk one-on-one with your CPAs to show them how to file your taxes, how to do the bookkeeping so that you can leverage these tax strategies. Will you leverage all of them? Some of you know, and that's okay. All right. So we have what we do here is say, look, I need about 3 hours of your time, 1 hour a month for the next 3 months so that I can actually do the work for you. I can't just pull it out of thin air. That's all I need. If you have a more robust estate, we might need 4 or 5 hours. All right. And we do the majority. We do about 90% of the work for you. You are left doing about 5 to 10 hours worth of work over the next 4 months, and it's all done. Our cost at the event, we've been here for a couple of days. Harrison's here. Harrison, you there? The tall, dark, and handsome guy in the back. He's also my nephew. Can you believe that? He's like a foot taller than me. I don't know where you got that from. He is still single. So if you have any daughters or, see, I gotta make sure, it's going, okay. Still single. He's also pre-med student. So if he comes to these conferences, number 1, to get educated, and number 2, to help me. I love the fact that he's here absorbing the education the same way you are. How many of you guys wish you heard this when you were in your 20s? How much money do you think you would have saved in taxes if you heard it when you were in your 20s? Yeah. How many of you have been sued? No, just kidding. Okay. But if you get sued, it becomes a reality once you've been through a lawsuit. The number one people who sign up with us are people who've actually been sued because they know how difficult it is. Other people think, I'm not really at risk. You are, but that's okay. Okay. $6,000 is one-time fee, never paid again. For any entity that you need, trusts, LLCs, LPs, it's all included there. The $2,400 is a service. It's a service that requires us to do all the work for you. Okay. It's talking to our attorneys, access to our staff. You're never being nickel and dime to pay or to talk with any of our attorneys. We want you to understand what you're doing and utilize them. So why would I charge you for something you already want to use? It's there. So unlimited access to them. Okay. We manage your entities for you as well. So you don't have more bookkeeping fees on top of this. This is a very simple way to do this. It's a personalized tax strategy and asset protection strategy. Here's what I'm going to guarantee you. I'm going to guarantee over the next 12 months, if you didn't already, you will all pay at least $8,400 in taxes. It's a sad reality, right? And what will the IRS give you back in return? I saw an aggressive shake. No, nothing. They will not pay you. They will not give you anything. Sometimes they'll even give you another letter saying you owe us more, right? I'm guaranteeing that you will save at least $8,400 in taxes. Some of you, I will only save $2,000 in taxes. I'm okay with that. I'm not going to push the envelope. If I only save you $2,000, you will not pay the other $6,400. I'm just asking a financial commitment, $8,400 up front. I will reimburse you. I will credit that money back to you after the first full year if you have not saved at least $8,400 in taxes. And now if you look at that over a 10-year period and you saved about $10,000 a month, or excuse me, a year, that's $100,000 in tax savings for a one-time investment. Dr. Brian Hnipsiak, anybody know him? Orthopedic surgeon. Okay, same idea. He said, I would like to come out on the road with you, but I can't. If you would just put that up there, that's great. He is not paid by us at all. He does not he's not financially involved in this at all. Okay. This is just as another healthcare professional, what he believes. And so I want to share that with you. I want to open up this time I got maybe time for one question, maybe two. Anybody have any questions that thinks pertinent to the entire group? No? I answered all your questions throughout. Okay. So come and talk to me. I want to know what your situation looks like. You were handed out, Harrison handed these out earlier. This card is just, if you want to learn if you can save any money on the 280AG tax code, that's what this is for. We can contact you later and go over that. This is not enrolling in our services. This is not guaranteeing the event price of $8,400 at all. If you want to engage in our services, just come and talk to us. There's a different form for that. If you want to know what that includes, you can come and talk to us as well. I'll show you everything that it includes. Again, I want to know what your situation looks like to see if it will benefit you or not. If it won't, I will tell you this won't benefit you. If it will, I will also tell you that. Thank you so much, guys. I appreciate your time. Thank you. Appreciate that.